China's industrial profits plunge, highlighting ongoing economic challenges despite stimulus efforts. EU leaders push for rapid progress on the Capital Markets Union as top officials raise alarms over delayed integration. And is the Nord Stream 2 pipeline under threat as energy prices soar in Europe? Hello, I'm Taiba Aydin with the latest business and finance news here on TRT World. China's industrial sector is under pressure despite recent stimulus measures. As Beijing ramps up fiscal support, the question remains whether these efforts will be enough to stabilise growth amid deflationary worries and a sluggish economy. Industrial profits fell by 10% in October, marking the third consecutive monthly decline. September's 27% drop was the sharpest since March 2020. State-owned firms saw profits fall by more than 8%, while private firms faced a smaller 1.3% decline. The producer price index dropped just under 3% year-on-year in October, deepening slightly from September's 2.8% fall. CPI growth slowed to just 0.3%, the weakest rise since June. Meanwhile, real estate investments fell by 10.3% year-to-date, indicating ongoing sector struggles. But on the bright side, October retail sales rose by 4.8%, which exceeded expectations. The unemployment rate ticked down slightly to 5%, while equipment and high-tech manufacturing saw improved profitability driven by Beijing's stimulus measures. Let's get more on this now with Farah Murad, a senior market analyst at Equity Group in Dubai. Good to see you, Farah. Now, what does China's falling industrial profits signal about the state of its economy?
Thank you, Taiba, for having me. And I believe you summarized it pretty well. We're seeing a series of these declines have been there for 3 months. Okay, now we have maybe less worse data, because September had a very bad one. The production fell by over 27%, the worst, as you said, since 2020. So the era remains the same. The pressures remain the same. Maybe we're moving to less worse data, but it remains in that. What's worrying me as well is profits. Profits from year to date in October, it's even worse. It's above 4%, it's 4.3%. Comparing it to September, which was at 3.5, it's showing me that profits are also declining. So deflation pressure remains a concern. I don't know if we can say that the stimulus didn't really work well. It's either didn't work well or it needs more time, and we didn't really see its huge effect till the moment.
Right, so what sectors are most affected by the ongoing economic slowdown, and where are the bright spots, if there are any?
There is. The real estate remains the major problem in the Chinese economy. Even we're seeing investment is dropping despite the stimulus in October compared to September. State-owned profits are down by over 8%. It's even worse than private companies. Now, the bright spots are foreign investment and foreign companies. They made a bit of profit, 0.9%. Manufacturing, as we discussed, if you remember before, I believe it's a very interesting sector in China we need to look at. That's a bright spot, if you would like to say. Real estate or consumption is somehow doing better, came better than expectations. So that's something also we need to maybe celebrate, if you would like to say.
And what additional measures or policies does China need in order to stabilize growth?
I mean, that's the tricky question. We're seeing stimulus, we're seeing injection of liquidity in the banks to have better credit. We're seeing some moves to support infrastructure. I believe infrastructure needs more help. Consumption needs more support. Supporting sectors that are doing well, such as manufacturing and high tech, should be even more aggressive. Maybe we need also some time to see this slow consumption picking up. Maybe we need more time, more targeted stimulus, infrastructure investment, and maybe less tax, especially for foreign investors, which might also be supporting the economy.
Okay, Farah Murad, Senior Market Analyst at Equity Group. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, with Donald Trump heading to the White House, European leaders are accelerating moves towards greater financial integration. The Capital Markets Union is revamping financial clearing between nations to preserve European financial stability. Christina Simic reports.
The Capital Markets Union is a plan to create a single capital market. Its goal to get investment and savings flowing across the EU. This will benefit consumers, investors and companies everywhere in Europe. The CMU idea isn't new. It started in 2015, but now the push for interrogation is more urgent than ever.
But as Martin Luther King said, we are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. And in that time, the urgency to integrate our capital market has just risen.
Lagarde warned of growing global trade threats facing Europe. The EU's open economy makes it especially vulnerable. Banks play a vital role, but interrogation is the key.
While banks, you, play an essential role in the European economy, we know that integrated capital markets are needed for financing, in particular, early-stage breakthrough innovation. And it is key for becoming more resilient in a fragmenting world economy. Capital markets, in our view, is the missing link for Europeans to turn their high savings, more on that later, into greater wealth, which will ultimately enable them to spend more and strengthen internal demand.
The CMU would channel savings into wealth, driving internal demand. It has the potential to spark job creation and drive innovation. More investment means businesses can grow and thrive. That growth would also strengthen Europe's global competitiveness. And crucially, it will speed up Europe's green transition. French President Emmanuel Macron is a strong proponent as well. He believes it's key to boosting EU investments and growth.
Over the last few decades, we have been working on the single market, but leaving out a few rare sectors, including energy, telecommunications, and in particular, the financial markets. It is this union of capital markets that will allow us to respond and to build a genuine single market in savings and investment, which is a key condition for better mobilizing private capital around our priorities.
Creating the CMU is complicated and takes time. Some fear higher costs and market imbalances from the CMU. Political opposition is another challenge holding up progress. Harmonising Europe's diverse financial systems won't happen overnight, but the need for action has never been clearer. Christina Simic, TRT World.
Joining me now is Francesco Rizzuto, Professor of European Law at Liverpool Hope University. Good to have you on the programme with us. Now, the European Council adopted some new rules that revised the European Market Infrastructure and Directive last week. How do these changes aim to make the EU landscape more attractive?
Sorry if I smile a little bit. I think they have to go one heck of a lot further. Look, there are two reports, the Letter report, the Draghi report, in addition to what Lagarde is saying, which essentially is saying what Draghi said. There were also two reports, one from the World Bank and one from the EMS, essentially saying, Europe, you need to act very, very quickly and not just around the edges. Otherwise, in a quarter of a century, you're going to die.
Now, since 2015, numerous proposals had been put forward with regard to the project. What are the main obstacles here that are preventing deeper financial integration within the bloc?
Well, I think it's a combination of issues, really. I think the first issue is political. And the fact of the matter is that governments in Europe are accountable to their electorates. And over the last 3 or 4 years, governments have been afraid of pushing on with further integration in the face of opposition internally to migration, fear of greater Europeanization, opening borders and so on. So if you like, there's a political counterweight there, and governments find it difficult. Many of them find it difficult to push forward on that. I think there's self-interest. There are many governments, Ireland, to give you an example, Luxembourg, probably Belgium and 1 or 2 others, who don't really want to lose their ability, how can I put it, to maneuver financially to gain advantage. And then, of course, there's the other division between the so-called frugal states in the north and the, how can I put it, the more lax states in the south. So self-interest, distrust, these are the real reasons why, despite the reports now coming thick and fast, why it's difficult to see significant movement on the capital markets union, despite all the talk. The reality is that not much has happened. And I think that the European leaders, sadly, are not going to grasp that nettle very quickly.
Okay, Professor Francesco Rizzuto, we will have to leave it there. Thank you very much for your analysis.
Pleasure.
Now a quick look at some of the other top business stories from around the world. Oil prices leveled out on Wednesday, with Brent crude holding below $73 a barrel after recent losses, while West Texas Intermediate remained above the $68 mark. OPEC Plus is expected to delay restoring output amid concerns of oversupply, delegates said ahead of their weekend meeting. Bolivia has agreed to a $1 billion deal with China's CBC to build 2 lithium production plants in the Uyuni salt flats. These plants will be crucial in the production of electric cars and phone batteries. Bolivian President Luis Arce says this will make Bolivia a key player in the global lithium market. The Reserve Bank of New Zealand has lowered its benchmark interest rate by 50 basis points to 4.25%, continuing its series of rate cuts. This marks the 3rd consecutive reduction following cuts in October and August. The decision is aimed at providing stimulus to the country's sluggish economy. And India's Adani Group says it has lost nearly $55 billion in market cap since US corruption charges were brought against its top officials. Last week, prosecutors in New York accused founder Gautam Adani and his executives of hiding a $265 million bribery scheme from investors. Adani Group has been seen as synonymous with India's national infrastructure drive under Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Nord Stream 2 pipeline gas project has been subject of heated debate since its inception, causing a rift between Europe and America. In July, the European Court of Justice overturned a previous court ruling that required separate companies to build, operate and own gas pipelines. But why has the Russian project been such a geopolitical problem? Let's take a look. Nord Stream 2 is an underwater twin pipeline expected to transport natural gas from Russia directly to Germany. The pipeline was expected to follow the route of the existing Nord Stream twin pipeline underneath the Baltic Sea and was to pass from Russia through Germany, Denmark, Finland and Sweden. The nearly $10 billion project is supposed to carry 50 billion cubic meters of gas per year from the Yamal region in northern Russia. The project was meant to ease the pressure on European consumers facing record energy prices. Following its completion in 2021, Nord Stream 2 never went into operation after underwater explosions in 2022, which caused a rupture on the pipeline. Denmark and Sweden termed the explosion a sabotage and initiated separate investigations. In September 2022, Russia stopped the gas flow through its sister pipeline Nord Stream 1 completely, citing repairs, forcing people to bear the brunt of soaring gas prices. The project has faced strong opposition from the United States, environmental groups and some European countries who argued that it would harm the fragile marine ecosystems, jeopardize the bloc's move to a low-carbon economy and make Europe heavily reliant on Russian gas deliveries. The Kremlin has also refuted reports that the state-controlled gas giant Gazprom wants to sell the pipeline to a US investor. According to Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov, Russia will not hand over its strategic resources to the United States. For more on this, we're joined by Olga Krasniak, Associate Professor at the Higher School of Economics in Moscow. Good to have you on the program with us, Olga. Now, what are the implications here for Russia, particularly in regards to its energy dominance in Europe?
Of course, we understand that this Nord Stream pipelines, it's not just only economic but geopolitical project. And the time when it was constructed and it needed to come into force, it was sabotaged after the beginning of this special military operation in Ukraine. So, and it's not just only to punish Russia or maybe to somehow to push Russia away from energy market. We understand it would be American interests who basically filled in the needs of European market in gas, and they started to sell its own liquefied gas, so which is much more important, more expensive, and of course it's important for American interest to provide its own national interest. So, but geopolitical tensions, they're still on this highest point, and I do not see any foreseeable future somehow it will be solved back to the country.
Right, Olga, and what has Russia's response to the suspension of Nord Stream 2 been, and how does it plan to address Europe's energy needs?
Europe, of course, needs to address its economic needs because definitely, according to the numbers of the statistics, European economy in stagnation, maybe in recession, and of course, this thriving economy needs cheap resources and cheap Russian gas, and we see they're sabotaging this, and I do not believe it would be only European interest not to buy Russian gas or to sabotage this Nord Stream pipelines. It would be just American will and American wish. Ukraine, as well as European countries, they played in American hands. And so America is striving, America is strengthening its economy, but European countries, as well as Ukraine, they're basically they're losers in this fight, economic fight.
Right, and as you say, the other side of the stream, what kind of impact does this have on Germany and the wider European bloc?
We already have this impact, and the German economy is not thriving anymore, and because it has no cheap supplies. So what should we do? So probably we need to address this question to German government. So what kind of plans they have? Still, this conflict in Ukraine is ongoing conflict. Still, Russia is successful, and its offensive operation is very successful. And in this case, I do not see any other way this situation will be changed. I mean, Germany would not change its attitude towards once again buying Russian gas, and they following just American policy.
Right, and there has been quite a divide in Europe with rumours that the pipeline could be sold to a US investor. How is Russia addressing these criticisms?
Well, indeed, during his presidential election campaign, Trump, he mentioned that he killed Nord Stream 2, but he did not elaborate this issue, and nothing else was added to this. But of course, we might expect. So America definitely has its interest. And moreover, just only a few days ago, a new package of financial economic sanctions were touched upon Gazprom Bank. It's a bank of a Gazprom company, which operated Nord Stream pipelines. And so this bank, Gazprom Bank, it was not sanctioned until just only a few days ago. And we might expect, so it would be, just to complete the whole picture of all these small puzzles. And maybe the United States definitely has its economic interest maybe to buy it. But I do not believe that Russia would accept or Russia would agree on this American plan if America has its plan.
All right, interesting analysis there. Olga Krasniak, Associate Professor at the Higher School of Economics in Moscow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, investors, business entrepreneurs and leaders from all over the world are gathering at the 20th Musiad Expo here in Istanbul. Many deals and partnerships are set to take place as Turkey looks to take its exports to a new height. Yunus Demiroğlu was at the event.
After a record year for exports, Turkey is now aiming to repeat its success in 2024. Shipments abroad rose 3.2% in the first 9 months, compared with the same period as last year. Events like the 20th Musiad Forum are aimed at promoting Turkish commodities by gathering over 8,000 visitors from 121 countries and over 500 companies in 24 different sectors. Last year, more than 70,000 people attended. This year, the number is expected to be even higher. Networking and trade deals are the main objective, and many of the people here will no doubt be walking out with trade deals.
We are producing 100% engineered of Turkey road sweeping machines, and we are exporting 85 different countries all over the world. And our export rate is approximately 95%. And always we are participating with these exhibitions to meet the potential clients from all over the world.
Our intention is to produce the same technology products that are produced inside China here in Turkey. The Ministry of Industry and Technology is supporting us in this endeavor. If necessary, during the setup phase, we will carry out some of the processes that take place in China at the facility we will open in Turkey. Our aim is not to be completely dependent on China. Instead, we want to learn from China and integrate this knowledge into our operations.
It's one of the top emerging economies. We brought our company here with the participation of 11 other companies that bring an export offer of more than 60 products, processed, whole, in different forms. It's a highly valued product in the Turkish market. And as Venezuela increases its participation in this fair, we intend to participate and increase trade between Turkey and Venezuela, two brotherly peoples.
Turkish exports have risen close to 50% since 2021. The country's trade deficit is rapidly closing as the government promotes local production and the country moves towards self-sufficiency. New and developing sectors like some examples in tech and engineering are cementing themselves, while Turkey's already tried and true breadwinners continue to grow. With inflation now at a standstill and investors looking for a slice of the pie, the future of Turkey's rapidly developing economy seems only to be getting brighter. Yunus Demiroğlu, TRT World, Istanbul.
The war in Gaza has brought economic devastation on an industrial scale. The damage to infrastructure is running into billions of dollars. Add to that the displacement of nearly 2 million people and the destruction of the health system. The restrictions on essential aid means Gaza is enduring an economic collapse with humanitarian consequences. The damage to Gaza's infrastructure is estimated at $18.5 billion. Homes, schools, hospitals and other essential facilities have been wiped out. Gaza's GDP has plummeted by 86%, leaving businesses shattered and livelihoods destroyed. Inevitably, the number of jobless has surged. It's now at 50%, with projections showing 8 out of 10 people could be out of a job before too long. Poverty in Gaza has also soared. The poverty rate in Palestine is expected to jump from around 40% in 2023 to nearly 75% this year. That's more than 4 million people, including 2.6 million newly impoverished. Multi-dimensional poverty in Gaza has doubled, meaning those who lack basic needs like housing, healthcare and education. Gaza's recovery depends on the lifting of restrictions on aid. There are 3 scenarios: the no early recovery scenario, where growth stagnates at 2%, the restricted early recovery scenario with $280 million donated in aid, but it would have no long-term impact, and the non-restricted early recovery scenario with restrictions lifted and $570 million in aid. This is what a meaningful recovery would require. But displaced Palestinians are finding innovative ways to cope with the hardship brought about by the ongoing war. Many in Gaza are now turning to old ways of living just to survive. Brenda Redido has the story.
Amina Abu Maghassib's traditional livelihood is in high demand in Gaza. She uses her donkey and cart as a taxi service. The war has led to a widespread shortage of fuel. So now the old ways are making a comeback.
Before the war, I used to sell milk and yogurt, and the factory used to take the milk from me. Now I have no income other than the donkey and the cart. Everything else is gone. It was destroyed in the war. Even my house is gone. It was demolished. Now I live in a tent.
Maghassib is among the many people who have been forced to eke a living, but it's grueling work.
I'm tired and exhausted, and the donkey gets tired too. It works 8 hours a day, and it takes an hour to get back to their tent, so a total of 9 hours.
This is the destruction caused by Israelis' military offensive in the besieged areas of northern Gaza. Families are forced to flee their homes, often with their possessions wrapped hastily into a bundle. Others who are not able to make it to their camps are left stranded on the streets without basic household goods. A simple dinner plate, so often taken for granted, is now a rarity in Gaza and in high demand. Ceramics are making a comeback, and potters like Jaffa Thaler have become unlikely heroes, providing an increasing need for basic kitchen utensils. His pottery was destroyed by an Israeli airstrike. He now works in this makeshift workshop, producing 80 pieces a day at a cost of $2 per piece.
In Gaza City, we used to sell a single piece for 2 to 3 shekels, just to make a living during the war and amid the immense suffering that our people in Gaza are enduring.
Like so many in Gaza suffering from the devastation of war, Maghassib and Atala have found a way to provide for their families by rekindling the traditional ways of life. Brenda Redido, TRT World.
Well, that's all your business news for now. Thanks for watching.